allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the adoption of the agenda.
I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? How many are 6? Oh. Public comment, I don't think we have any tonight.
Good.
Yep.
All right, well, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to brag on our school a little bit, talk about some of the things that we've been working on, but also some of the things that we're hoping to do in the future. Before we get into that, I wanted to say thank you to the board. The board appreciation month. We appreciate all the things you guys have been doing. One of the things, we're going to go into a number of different things just real quick, and then really try to give you as much time to ask questions as you can. I would be remiss not to talk about our teachers. Anything that we're trying to do or have done or will do can't be done without our teachers at the ground level. So I want to thank them publicly for their hard work as we've gone back to hybrid the last few weeks. Obviously that's a little bit harder planning aspect and delivery aspect for them, and they've just done an amazing job. So really appreciate what they've been doing. But we're just going to highlight a few things. I'm going to go pretty quickly. I've got some guys here to help me out. Again, wanted to give most of the time for any questions you might have. One of the big things that the state has really been pushing for a few years, ever since Mr. Watson started, Dr. Watson, is striving for successful graduates. And one of the big things is as far as I'm concerned, is a successful graduate is whatever each kid in our building believes is successful for them. And that could be anything from going to a Harvard or Princeton and being someone who does really big things at the highest level possible, or it could be someone who just wants to go right into the workforce with a certification and do something with that. So we want to be able to help any student, no matter what success looks like to them, be successful. And so anything that we're doing is to help them be successful while they're in high school, but more importantly, to be successful when they leave us. So just put a few things on there kind of in line with the current strategic plan as far as what we're doing with the culture, academic relevance, and positive relationships, because all those, to me, are the biggest areas to help these young men and women be successful after they're done with us. So this quote is from a webinar I was on the other day with DCF Kansas. Basically just said that the biggest thing associated with success for any of our students is that meaningful contact with the teacher or any staff member. So through everything we do, we want to make sure we try to establish those relationships. Some of the things that the state says that are keys to being successful graduates is academic preparation. I'm very impressed with the offerings we have at Newton High School. In the short time I've been here, we have so much that many schools our size do not offer for all different areas of success, whether that's our honors classes or our advanced level academic courses or our CTE courses, or the number of electives that we have. I don't know many 5A schools that offer 3 foreign languages. So we just have such a great variety of academics, cognitive preparation, technical skills, employability skills. That's one area that we're continuing to look at. That the employers are telling us that we've got to do a better job preparing our kids. So that's an area, and then civic engagement. So the state tells us those are some of the keys to having successful graduates. So we'll keep those in mind as we go through things. I'm not going to read all these, but I'm a big believer in that quote at the bottom that says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. I think that if you want to do anything, whether that's with kids or with teachers or staff, you have to have a great culture, and you have to have servant leaders. And so I'm going to let some of these guys talk about some of the things we've done this year and hope to do in the future. But the 3 areas, just kind of some of the examples of things we've been working on there, and be happy to answer questions on any of those. So I'll let Blake come up. He's got a couple slides here that he's really helped lead and done a great job, so let him talk about that.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. So one of the cool things that we're doing this year that we haven't done in the past is the Sunshine Squad. So it's something that Caleb had the idea for, and we kind of took it and ran. We're trying to evolve the culture at Newton High. And we want to showcase the good that's happening. I think sometimes that gets maybe lost in the shuffle with some drama and stuff like that, so we really want to bring that to the surface and highlight all that. So what we've done is we have a committee of teachers that have come together, and counselors and social workers, and we've met once or twice already, and we have a game plan for most of the year of what we're going to be doing. And so we knew that it was, for instance, SRO Appreciation Day last weekend. And so we prepared for it, and we actually recognized our SROs. Around Christmas time, Mr. Van Rankin was awesome enough to have a picture taken in a Christmas Santa outfit for us, and we laminated it, so we're going to be using this for years and years to come. But we called it Red Fred, and we actually hid it around the school, and we gave clues to teachers each day, kind of like the medallion hunt from the Wichita Eagle, and whatever teacher found it, they got $50. And so we actually had, you can see in one of the pictures up there, Mr. Camarena lifting off the lid of the toilet. It was not hidden in a toilet, but that's a great idea.
I was gonna say, I thought they were all in toilets, Blake, is what I was
Yes,
told.
that's where it's staying the rest of the year. Yes. So we're just trying to do things. We had Miss Gordon, Miss Bureau go around and deliver candy and drinks to teachers. So we did like a room service thing where we hung a room service tag on teachers' doors, and then they marked what they wanted, and then we went and bought it, and the next week we delivered it. We're just trying to show gratitude. We're trying to show the good at Newton High School, because there truly are a lot of great things that are happening. Something else that we did starting this year is we started the Students of the Week program. So the masks that you guys, I believe you received them tonight, that I see Andy and Luke wearing right now. These are given to our Students of the Week. So every week we honor 6 different students as our Students of the Week. AGCO sponsored it, so it's the AGCO Students of the Week, and they actually help to fund the masks that you guys have. And so what we do is we partner up, we have 10 departments, and so a lot of them are hooked up with another department. We have one that's a standalone, and they come together and they say, okay, who can we recognize? So that we get a good cross-section of students every single week. So you'll get an English kid, you'll get a special ed kid, you'll get a PE kid, you'll get a drama kid, right? So we're getting a good cross-section of kids. And what we ask is the teachers to write something specific about those kids that we can use to recognize them when we create the Twitter feed as well as the Facebook post that goes out. We have a video board in front of the school, and so every week I update it, and so we recognize each of the kids. They'll flash by on the screen up there. And something else that we do is each assistant principal and Mr. Smith also, I say, okay, you've got Corbin, you've got Stephanie, you've got Reagan, you need to go recognize them. So they go down to the classroom and they actually do a little presentation, they give them their mask and say congratulations. If they're remote, we call them. We try to get the parents on the phone as well. So 6 students a week sounds like a lot, but we have a lot of really good students, and we've got them lined up for weeks. We've asked the different departments to go ahead and put them down if you've got them, and we're excited for what's to come with all of this. I don't know what's going to happen. What are we going to give them next year when we don't need masks anymore? I don't know. We'll figure that out. You can never go wrong with food. What'd you say?
A new car.
A new car. Yeah, you get a car, you get a car. We'll be like Oprah.
There you go.
All right. All right, Mr. Flores.
If you haven't read one of Caleb's brightest focus, they can be very entertaining, so just go ahead and do not miss that opportunity. There's tons of information. Next step is the collaborative problem solving. So going back to at the beginning of the presentation where we mentioned how Dr. Watson was pushing the state initiative, and within the district initiatives, we have these goals, wildly important goals. So at the building level, we're having our initiatives, and these right here are the action steps. These are the strategies that we're going to show some of the lead measures as far as what are we doing in the building that directly is going to influence a long-term goal, more of a life goal. So with this, we have a collaborative problem solving, and this is not mainly for students who are in misbehaviors, as you read the quote right here, but this is an opportunity for teachers, myself, administration, counselors, support staff, another tool, another resource for them to have that opportunity to build that relationship with students. This is not so much focused on the action, but it kind of helps or provides that avenue to discover, is there a skill that's missing? It really increases or the frequency of having those communications with students. So,
All right, like I said, I'm gonna go through this kind of quick, but one thing that I think is very important for high school students is you hear the old saying, how am I ever gonna need this? You ever heard that, or you probably said it when you were in school? We still hear that all the time, but we're trying to actually act on that. I mean, I think a lot of what the initiative is with the state, with Mr. Van Rankin, is to make things very personalized for our students. And so what that means is, to me, is finding things that once a student knows what their interests are, that we try to attack those interests and make the content relevant. So I'm just gonna hit on the middle area, the applied English course that you guys approved last month. So a kid that knows they're not gonna go to a four-year college, they may be going right into welding, they may be going right into, maybe they wanna be an entrepreneur and they're just gonna start a business right out of high school. Well, they may want some more, they might want their English standards to be taught in a different way rather than reading Shakespeare or another novel. They may want to learn how to write a better email to, address something, or how to do some technical writing to post a job that's available, or things like that. So applied English, that's one thing we're gonna pilot that at the senior level next year. So anybody that will be a senior, if they want to get an applied English, they can do that. That'll count the same as the normal senior English. The geometry and construction, so students can use their math standards to actually do something within the construction program or the woods program, so that they're learning those same math skills or math standards, but they're doing it in something that they're interested in and applying it to something they're interested in. And for me, I think the long-term goal is that we have student choice or relevancy embedded in every course that we have, so that no matter what you're taking, there's a way that you can apply it to something you're interested in and something you're going to do long-term. So, so those are just some areas as we look at individual plans of study. We know we have a long ways to go. The bottom box is straight from the State Department website. That's what they define as an individual plan of study, and that'll be a continuing conversation that we'll be having. This is just a quick slide that kind of shows what the Kansas CAN continuum of kind of helping students along the way of career awareness and career exploration through their classes and through IPS. So just a quick slide to look at. The internship program, which is part of our course request, we already have an internship, just a broad internship class in our arsenal, but we want to make that a little bit more expanded. One, I would love to see every kid that leaves us to have done an internship. Right now, we're probably, I don't know, 10% or so, or less, that are actually completing an internship before they leave us. I would love to see that number go up to 90 or 100, because I think there's a lot of value in completing an internship, going through some of the processes within that internship, which you can see on the right-hand side, all the things they'll do through that process, but also to explore things they think they're interested in, and they can either reaffirm that or figure out that maybe that's not what they want to do, and figure that out while they're still in high school before they waste a year of college or waste a year after college or high school. So I would love to see our internship program continue to grow, and that's something we're going to be exploring. Positive relationships, so this is the last of the three that we talked about. Just some different areas that we're looking at. I'm just going to highlight our student learning teams. Mr. Flores had mentioned collaborative problem solving, so we really want to address lagging skills for our students when it comes to things that they're struggling with. And a lot of times you hear about that within discipline, but it could be within a lot of different areas within the academic realm. So we're going to continue to go down that route of trying to help teachers understand how to work with students in the best way, the rest of our staff, but also helping parents work together with us to address those lagging skills. So that's going to be something you're going to continue to hear about in the future. Freshman success, I'm going to talk about that. This is probably the biggest area that I really want to focus in on as far as our graduation rates are concerned. There's a lot of research out there that the freshman year is when you lose kids. So we're getting ready to do, dig deep into our graduation rates, do a cause analysis on the ones that aren't graduating. And I'm pretty certain we're gonna find that we're losing a lot of these kids their freshman year. And so, one thing that we have implemented that you approved last month, that I would, if there's any 8th grade parents listening now, I would encourage you to enroll your kid in Reality 101. It's just gonna be a class about how to succeed in high school and succeed after high school, how to advocate for yourself as an adult, how to manage your time, study skills, just the different things that you need to be successful, not only in high school, but after high school. So we lose a lot of kids that freshman year, and I want to put an end to that. I want to make sure that we can keep those kids on track. So you'll be hearing more on that, but that's just a new course that we're excited to see how that impacts our on-track rate. Last thing is just communication and engagement. We're trying to do a really good job in this area. I think one thing that's the struggle right now, and Sam can probably relate, is that balance between over communicating or too much communication where it becomes white noise, and then also getting the information out that they need. So we're trying to balance that, but we have a number of different ways to communicate with our different stakeholders, and so that's what that slide's all about. We're going to highlight real quick what Mr. Becker started last week, which is our SALT team. This is a diverse group of students that have all been nominated by a sponsor or coach from all of our clubs, our activities, everything from robotics to DECA to band to football, basketball, golf, whatever it may be. So it's cool to bring all of them kind of together for leadership development, but also for a way to advise us on how we can do better as adults. So that group went through a workshop kickoff last week with Joe Coles. He's a local education consultant, that's really good, and they had a good first day, so just wanted to highlight that real quick. Before I go on to that, any questions on anything I covered on those? I know that was a lot, but you can all read, so I didn't want to read slides.
Can you go into the diversity team a little bit?
Sure. So our diversity team is a group we started this last August. It's led by Joanna Bertram and Dana Gordon. They're our social worker and one of our counselors, and they're looking at how we can best support some of our marginalized groups within our building. And so it's been a little bit of a struggle to do a whole lot so far, just because they've only had a handful of meetings. They also have an advisory board that they'll meet with periodically to give them feedback on some of the things they're hoping to do or planning or action steps. But basically, they're looking at how we can best support all the different types of students we have in our building.
Okay. And also on the Reality 101 course, is there anything like that at Chisholm, possibly for 8th graders?
I think there's
Probably not a whole course, but.
Careers, and there's a partner course too, just kind of.
There's a careers course on that, I think. But
Empower is the other one.
the difference, I think, is for us is from the careers course might be that ours is more about a whole student, where I don't know if the careers course is IPS directly. I don't know exactly how that course is, but we're really addressing the whole student, so all the different skills that you need to be successful, not just, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? So. Any other questions? All right. Well, the graduation requirement proposal, so this is just something that's kind of come up as possibly a need, and we were hoping to get your feedback tonight. The biggest thing is the difference between A and B is basically grandfathering it in next year with the next class, where A would take more of an immediate effect, so right away. And the pros of A are that some students might have some more immediate ability to flexibility within their graduation requirements, where it also could be considered a con because some of the students that have been doing what they need to do and staying on track are in a way getting punished because they didn't necessarily have to take some of those courses. So B would just give everybody that's already in the high school will stay on track for what they thought their graduation requirements were, and we'll start fresh with next year's freshmen with the new requirements. So the biggest change is just for the removal of computer apps and the removal of PE2 as a requirement. And then with us moving from a 7-hour schedule to an 8-hour schedule, there's a need to up the requirement for total credits. Otherwise, we'd have a ton of possibly halfway through their junior year graduation, because we're actually offering more credit now. So to keep that relationship with the number of credits possible for graduation, we would up it to 26. So I'm seeking feedback tonight on those proposals.
You said one of the changes was removing PE too.
Correct.
When is the health section taught? Is that part of
This-
PE?
The state requirement is in our 9th grade class.
Okay, so it would be the PE.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the one thing we would lose with PE too is they do the certification for CPR, but we would move that down to the 9th grade class, which is what most schools do. I think there's only one other school in the area that has PE too as a requirement for graduation, besides us at this time. And this again just goes back to giving more choice to students, allowing them to kind of pave their own way to what's important to them.
Would that not create sort of a overage of PE teachers that now are be reassigned to some other course?
Right, so it's possible that we would have less need for total PE sections, but our overall sections wouldn't change because of like Reality 101 or internship. So it's possible that, let's say, one of our PE teachers didn't have enough seats, but we could use them for that internship class or for the Reality. Because even if you remove a requirement, we still have the same amount of kids that need classes. So it doesn't really change that. Other questions or comments, feedback on the requirements? I also included in the packet all the area schools requirements, if you wanted to review that and how that relates or compares to what we do.
Most high schools, you would say now only require just the 1/2 credit of PE.
It's a year, 1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a state requirement, 9th grade.
PE 2 is only half a year.
Correct.
Okay.
And most schools do not require that.
Gotcha.
What if I was a concerned board member or superintendent about the computer apps, removing that requirement? Can you speak to that a little bit about why that might not be a bad idea?
So a couple things, we're looking at moving that down to the middle school because we feel like that's what a lot of districts have done is try to address that skill at the middle school level. And it's also an intro class to a couple of our pathways. So if they get it knocked out in middle school, they can get high school credit for that. And then they can come into 9th grade and actually take a next level course, which again addresses that need for 9th graders to find something in their niche right away. So just an example would be like a student that was a digital media pathway. So if they've already taken apps in middle school, they can immediately take a very relevant digital media course as a 9th grader, and that might be the one course that keeps them on track for high school. So just to hook them a little earlier, also allows them to be a completer a little better. Also, we think that the skills or the competencies within apps should really be taught in all classes, especially social studies and English. I mean, you're writing papers, doing research. Some of those word processing skills should be taught in those classes. So Excel skills. It's kind of twofold. If you look at the comparison I sent you, I think us and Andover are the only ones that still require computer apps at the high school level.
Is there any other sort of like computer lab course other than computer apps? Is that it?
Yeah, and actually that's another positive is if they've already taken apps, it opens up some other electives that we have in computer classes. We have computer programming, we have a networking class. Might allow them to get into their business pathway a little bit quicker, depending on what they're going into. We'll still offer apps, we'll just say that's not a requirement, so our section should probably decrease.
So how many sections of other courses are you gonna have available, with the removal of that for students to take? Because how many sections right now currently have that?
No, we have a lot of sections in it.
Yeah. Yeah, you can. Ben, he's more knowledgeable on this.
So right now, we have a lot of sections that we're offering to be able to allow students the ability to get that requirement, mostly when they're freshmen. So by removing that requirement at the high school level, I would think over time, it also depends on the graduation requirement, which route we go with that, whether it's immediately effective or it's phased out over time. But we could be decreasing that possibly to 1 or 2 sections of computer apps eventually, which then allows for more freedom to open up some other offerings in CTE. Yeah, good question.
So this is a, item of information tonight. When would we be voting on the change?
At the next meeting, we do that, yeah, give you guys time to think about any questions you might have about any of these things, and what secondary consequences, or, you might feel that need to be addressed before you officially approve that. We spent a lot of time, beating up Caleb and his people, about these things, because I always try to think about, okay, what are those unintended consequences of making those moves? Taking that computer apps class and putting it in middle school, it's a great thing to do, because it does give up flexibility, so they can offer more upper level courses in those pathways. And it gives kids at that middle school level an actual high school credit they can take, a .5 high school credit they can take with them. And they're already, able to participate in the pathway, so there's a lot of positives there. I have some concerns too, but the positives outweigh the things that I might have with that. So if you have questions, I really would like for you to send those, to Caleb, and if you CC myself and Sheila or me, for sure, but it's myself and Sheila, that way we can kind of help work through those questions.
And, are you gonna recommend one proposal or the other? Or are we gonna?
I struggle personally.
You don't have to answer with one now, but
Yeah.
I'm just wondering.
Well, I'll show you my hand a little bit. I struggle with making it a requirement for all kids beginning next year, because if I was, for example, a junior, and all of a sudden, I was planning on taking that computer apps, although they probably did take it as a freshman. Or I just took it and I didn't want to, and now next year, you're gonna put me in that situation to where it's not fair type of a thing. You're gonna hear that anyway. I like the gradual phasing in of requirements, but I'm old too. That's part of it, because that's the way we've always done it. Doesn't mean that's the best way to do that. So, if you remove it though, like I said, you get those opportunities for so many more offerings for those kids, from those CTE teachers that could actually benefit them and maybe energize them more than having to make them go through that, go through those courses.
All right, so, and also on this is, I just wanted to quickly explain this. I'm already going over what time I promised, but internship courses, we already have an internship generic course, but this is just cleaning it up for two reasons. One, we want to be able to track what different pathways our kids are going into, but also it allows us to get that application level CTE funding. So by actually using the correct courses, so it looks like a lot in what we're requesting, but really it's just to clean up the internships. Same with independent study. We currently have an independent study generic code that really doesn't match what it's supposed to. So we're just cleaning up the course guidebook with those three that we're asking for there. Really the new courses that we're asking for are those last four. And then so the team sports and individual sports. And that's just based on removing that 0.5 PE credit. It allows students to pick a more specialized area of PE that they want to be part of, rather than just a general PE too. And then in environmental science and biotech, if you have questions on biotech, that's again a CTE funded course for our medical pathway, or our health sciences pathway. And then intro to industrial tech, I do want to talk about this. In the past, that's been basically a woods course, almost like an intro to woods course. But we're really going to turn it into a course where students get to have an introduction to every area of CTE, so circuitry, computer-aided design, machining, welding, electrical systems, just giving them a little dab of each, and then they can have a personalized project at the end of that class on the area that they think they're most interested in. And then our hope is, by doing it that way, they leave there knowing which pathway they want to go into. So whether that's our welding program, our machining program, our woods program, whatever it may be, they'll know after they take that class what they're most interested in. So we're really kind of just revamping that class that we already have. So the new courses, again, are the bottom four on the elective box. Questions on those? All right, we'll let Ben finish this up. This is pretty quick.
President Morton, members of the board, Superintendent Van Rankin, thank you for the opportunity to be able to share with you this evening. My name is Ben Reed. I am the new Career and Technical Education Director and Assistant Principal at the high school. So for those of you I just met tonight, it's a pleasure to meet you, and I'm glad to be here. One thing that we did is we rebranded ourselves a little bit. We have a new logo, so that's what's displayed here on the screen. And this really aligns with two of our other logos for our academies, both the Ag Academy and the Health Science Academy. This now follows in suit with what those look like. It cleans up our design. But really, it embodies what we are all about. And that is to provide some direction, help our students provide direction in what avenue that they want to pursue post-graduation. So that's why we went with the compass theme. That really just symbolizes our purpose and mission in helping students find the right pathway for them. So I wanted to share with you that tonight. The other thing is culture and community. It has been a wonderful staff to be able to come and join. Our CT teachers are just phenomenal. They bring not only industry or business experience, but just good pedagogy to the table to help our students really learn what they need to. And so they've been a phenomenal staff to work with. The office support staff has also been great to help me in this transition time as well. So a big shout out to them. And one thing that I noticed from a survey or some one-on-one meetings I did with staff at the beginning of the school year was really helping those career and tech ed departments come together more. Because we have outdoor, which is more industrial side, and indoor, which is more the business side of things, and it can feel very separate at times. And this year has not really allowed itself to help us to really get together a whole lot. We are not able to meet all together, very often. So it's been hard to initiate some of that stuff, but we're working at that. And one thing that we'll start to do, actually this month will be our first awardee of this, is the I Am Newton CTE shirt, as you can see here. So there's a Google form that I sent out to all of the staff, letting them know they can nominate a staff member, administrator, counselor, anyone in the building, even community members that they think have gone above and beyond to support our programming and our students. And so I'll be awarding at least one t-shirt every month, and then posting them up on a board in our offices as well, just to give them some recognition for what they're doing for our students. And so that's just something small we're working on to help create more of a close-knit culture amongst our CTE programs. The other thing is we also want to reach out to the community. And so as you can see here, working on some design sketches with our staff. The idea is that these would become window stickers that businesses could put up in their fronts of their stores, potentially on vehicles, but really we're thinking businesses. So those ones that we are connecting with, those who are donating to our programs, spending their time, allowing students to come intern with them, we'd like to give them something that they can display in their place of work to really show their pride in helping us at Newton High School. And so we're excited to get that started and get those out into the hands of our community partners. The other thing is we have some exceptional opportunities for growth and partnerships. We have really, really good programs, and I think we can make them even better and move to greatness. And one of those things is connecting with some of our area colleges. So we've started conversations with Bethel College, just seeking opportunities to provide more dual credit locally, and then also interested in starting some conversation with growing your own teacher program. We know there's a teacher shortage now. There is probably going to continue to be. So if we can find and identify students who are interested in education while they're in high school, and helping them get into a program locally and then cycle them back through as our student teachers, and then hopefully hiring them for any vacancies that we might have. And we're looking to continue to talk with them about that. The other one is aviation pathway. Both with the Newton Municipal Airport as well as our location and proximity to Wichita, really it provides us with that opportunity to help students connect to that industry. And so have already been in discussion with some post-secondary institutions about this and what ways we can provide our students that opportunity. We do not have the capacity at Newton High School we don't have an aviation, we don't have unless you want to add an FTE, Mr. Van Rinken, which is not likely. We can still provide opportunities though for kids to go get that somewhere else at a college or post-secondary institution that already offers it. And so we're looking to do that. Our Health Science Academy, our first cohort will start next August. We are really excited about that. That's another great opportunity for our kids just to get more connected with that type of occupation and really get prepared for life after high school. We're also looking to expand to an additional health science pathway, so that bio, tech, and medicine course that we are proposing. With the addition of that course, that would allow us to open up yet another pathway, this biomedical pathway, again, that students would be able to then become completers in. And so we, again, are grateful. I'm very grateful to be a part of this community. I thank you for the opportunity to lead such a phenomenal program. and I look forward to great things to come. Thank you.
And the last thing that's kind of unrelated, but it is still related, is we want to do everything we can to give our seniors a prom and graduation this year. I think that's important. So we wanted to get your blessing to set a date, knowing that we would have to kind of work out the details in the future, but there is quite a bit of planning that's involved. So the idea that the students have come up with is a tentative outdoor prom on the football field at Fisher Field. Get a fireworks tent and trying to have an outdoor prom. The details to work through would be whether if there's bad weather, whether we'd be able to go inside, or if we would have to reschedule. So just have that on there for your feedback as well. So with that, any last questions?
I don't know if I have questions, can I make a quick statement? I mean, all the meetings I've had so far, I've just never been more blown away about potential and action, and everything that's been going on and all this is happening behind the scenes. You guys are rock stars and doing what you're doing, and so many kids are gonna benefit from this, and the connection to the community is amazing. Just wanna say thank you guys for all your hard work, it doesn't go unseen. This is, it makes me super excited to be a part of this community and a part of this team right now, so thank you guys for all you're doing. Thank you.
I agree, I was gonna save it for my board comments, but I think it's timely now. You guys are doing a phenomenal job, and I already see a very big positive shift in our culture just within your building and then within our community. And I want to applaud you for that, because not only is it hard to build culture and bring awareness to all the positive things happening, but during the year that we're in right now, it's even more difficult. And you guys are doing a fantastic job. Just when I think we couldn't possibly add any more pathways and classes for our kids, you guys come in with more options, and it all comes back to meeting kids' needs and doing whatever you have to do to reach those kids. And it might not be a large group of kids, but it might be one or two that's just what they need. So I appreciate all that you guys do, because this takes so much time and energy. You guys are doing phenomenal work, and I'm so proud to be part of this district, so thank you.
I was going to comment specifically on the efforts you are making to increase the percentage of completers on the CTE pathways. I remember a couple years ago, probably, those numbers weren't great, and it's nice to see you guys making efforts to get kids in a position to figure out what they want to do earlier so they can complete a pathway. One question I was going to ask specifically is you mentioned graduation also, so I'm just wondering, like, what are you guys' preliminary thoughts on how that could happen?
Well, we've booked Hartman Arena for, I believe, May 24th. We've sent that information out to senior parents. And the biggest reason for that was we could try to host it at Fisher Field, but then, as has happened a couple times in the last 10 years, weather were to cause an issue, then we would have to really limit who could come into the gym. And the last thing I want to do is turn families away that have traveled, many miles. So we thought, we met with our senior leaders in Stuco and kind of got their feedback, and talked to our site council, and the overwhelming feedback was, let's do Hartman this year to make sure that there's a better chance that we can get that done. And Hartman right now, even with current conditions, is allowing about 4,000 tickets within the building. So that would allow us to still have quite a few tickets for each graduate.
So you have to issue a number of tickets per.
Yeah. So we'll meet with them in April, kind of see where everything's at that point as far as COVID. They'll tell us how many tickets we get, and then we'll allocate those to seniors.
Could you give the date again? Is it
I'll quote it wrong, but I think it's Saturday, May 24th at 4.
Saturday is the 22nd, so. it
The
is
22nd then, yes, that's what it is. That's what I knew I was off. I did send you guys a calendar invite, so, and I know you may not check your school calendar email, but it's on your school calendar. Any other questions? All right, thank you so much. Sorry I went over. Thank you.
I believe those course requests are in the board packet as well, so just the formal paperwork associated with those, so.
Okay, consent agenda.
I move to approve consent agenda items A through D.
Second.
Okay, first and second, all those in favor? 6-0. Okay.
always a pleasure to have this section of the agenda. Not a ton of things there really to discuss, the gating numbers. That new reflection of the week's numbers is in your packet. I put that in this afternoon. I did send the email to you because like you said before, you never know what section that pertains to, so that's why it's going to be the Monday afternoon sometime. We are in yellow again. If you look at the color, when I did the analysis that was associated with that put us like in that color designation about 71% of the time since September when we started school. So I've not heard anything negative about the operation. Right now, of course, we're starting the new semester, so that rolling hybrid, we'll see how that works for kids and parents in terms of how well that works. And we'll revisit that at the first February meeting, because we're going to go till February 12th for this particular one. A couple of things to kind of talk about maybe a little bit is just the Acacia vote this past week. I put some information about the recommendation from the high school is in terms of allowing seniors, for sure senior parents to have up to participants to have 4 spectators, not just designating who they are, because right now it's a parent or guardian. So that would allow you to take grandma or grandpa, but having more than that for the senior level might make it problematic in some of the gyms, even for basketball games and stuff to keep at that capacity. So that's the recommendation. I know that the league is supposed to be meeting this week to discuss that a little bit more and come out with some more guidance for that. So just kind of wanted to get your thoughts about that. I know, Luke, you had something I think you had sent to Mallory and I about maybe not going to that number with respect to athletics. So if you guys wanted to talk about that, I'm more than willing, obviously, to listen to anything you guys might want to provide.
The reason why I would consider anything differently is because I don't know that all of the students that are involved with an activity are getting a chance to do their normal activity as they would in any other year. And so maybe I should have just posed it as a question first. I mean, I haven't been to any varsity basketball games because I don't have a student that's playing varsity basketball. So maybe I just don't know. Are cheerleaders, are the Rayliners, are pep band performing at those events like they normally would?
It's probably not as normal, but they are there. I know pep band has been reduced greatly, obviously with the wind instruments and all that other stuff, but they are there. So,
okay.
And that same number allotment of tickets would be allowed for every one of those because they're considered participants.
I guess that was my concern is, in listening to some parents, they feel like not all student activities are being treated the same. And so I just wanted to make sure that if anybody else was being held back, but we were expanding spectators for athletes, I wanted to make sure we would do that, just be equal for everybody and offer everybody their opportunity to do their thing, to do what they're passionate about, whether that's band or, dance or, any of those student activities. So, if they're already there and participating in those events, and we're already allowing them an equal number of spectators, then I would say, expand it in the same way. If you're recommending 4 for the senior class because we have limited capacity, I just want to make sure that we're covering all of those students regardless of what they're participating in.
And I may be speaking incorrectly there, but I think that's how the rule is participants, not athletes.
Okay.
The band reduced their numbers on their own accord just because of guidelines that are recommended for band. But they've still been performing, and then dance has still been performing, cheer has still been performing, and they've all had the same ticket allotment as, say, a basketball player.
Okay. Very good.
What you'll see are things like they'll clear gyms in between to make sure that they reduce the capacity and stuff. So they do a pretty good job of monitoring that. So, other than that, I hate to say I don't have a ton of other things, but I just really don't. I hate to kind of want to knock on something a little bit. We piloted some testing up there, Karen Lehman. They've done some PCR testing and also some rapid tests too. So they're working out those processes. I know they're also working on with Sam on a way for staff to be able to sign up. So that's going to be interesting to see how that goes. So she sent it back down this afternoon. with one of our couriers, and they should have results by this evening around 7 or 8 p.m. So we're real excited to see how that's gonna work out. And we actually did some PCR testing with a couple of students too today, from what I understood. So we're gonna see how that kind of pans out. It's not going horribly, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Do you have any update on vaccines?
Oh, not really, other than what I sent out last week, and that was one of those odd things when I get an email at 7:45 and there's 300 doses for all of those people that fit in that category. But I've not heard anything since that time. Hopefully they get more vaccines locally here to where that phase 2 group, so we can actually do some planning and prioritization of those groups of people. But right now I've heard nothing else, as of last week. So I think they've scheduled that second dose for that same group 2 weeks from what would be tomorrow. So we'll see. I'm a little concerned about that because there's been more reactions from second doses with some of the vaccines than first doses. And so what would be optimal is if we could schedule those on a Friday and half of our staff at a time, but I'm not sure if we're gonna have that luxury.
Yeah, I talked to a teacher the day that you sent that email, and she had been on the phone all morning and it's just busy trying to schedule. So hopefully when there are more available, there'll be a more organized process to get people those vaccines if they want them.
Yeah, I'm hoping that will work out for us.
Okay.
Is there anything in the works, and I don't know what your limitations are, I know with this round of vaccine, it was a free-for-all, there wasn't
It was.
prioritization among staff. Are we able to do some of that ahead of time, knowing that more vaccine is coming, to where our high risk or older teachers, whatever they may be, we can get them to the front?
If we know, so we can plan it, yes.
Okay.
But like in that situation, you know, it was one of those deals where I knew that if staff weren't notified, that we would not get any of this.
Sure.
And so, because when you're talking 5 schools across the county, plus all of the LEO and first responders, you know, that might be accessible. So I look back on that and I wish I would have called the other area superintendents and said, how do you think we should do this? Because I know I got one phone call at 1:30 that afternoon saying, hey, I can't get through, I want to register my staff. And I said, dude, that's my fault, because I sent it out to my staff to make sure that those that could did get registered. And so, I'm sure that they've learned a lot from that process. They need the Harvey County Health Department, because they want to do this well for us too, so that we can be more organized. We have a list, a priority list. The staff has filled out the surveys associated with that we put out a couple of weeks ago. So we should be able to be more strategic about that the next time.
Okay, I would just like to, anything we can do for our high priority, I don't want them to not get to the phone quick enough, when they might need it sooner than others, so I want to do everything we can to help them have a leg up.
Yes, that's our
If
goal as
possible.
well. Any other questions on that stuff? You guys are done with that too, aren't you, for a while? Yeah. That's all I got.
Do we not need to make a mode of learning decision?
No, we're good right now until the 12th of February. And so at the February 8th meeting, we'll then kind of determine if we want to continue the way that we are, things we're working with. Unless you want to, Luke, if you want
No,
to.
I mean,
I'm
as
good.
much consistency as possible is what I want, but.
And I think that consistency is nice for everyone. I think they at least know.
Well, do we need to make a motion then to allow this change that Keisha put through the line?
Well, if you trust us to just kind of manage that, because like the league is gonna come out with some other things too. You know, I think it kind of says in our gating, we follow, the Keisha guidance or whatever, so, and we can be a little more restrictive. I think we're okay just to proceed and trust our people to do, to follow what they're recommending that they're gonna do, because they've done that up to this point.
And that's gonna start January 29th.
29, yeah, this week.
So if the league comes back and if they say they're not comfortable with the 4, they just want to, can we go ahead, our district go ahead and do the 4 since our league is guidance? How does that work?
Well, you know, I don't know how strict they are. We have home rule and stuff, I do know that, but I know that generally when you're in a league, people try to play well together. But I don't know if they've had that discussion yet, because they still haven't talked about that yet, is that correct?
Yeah, past precedent's been they give a recommendation, not a hard set rule, because there are some schools that just do not want to have a rule put on them. And so, that's what I usually ask for, is a recommendation for our district, that way you guys can make that final decision. If they do make it a rule, you can still defy that rule, but they also have the opportunity to say, well, you're not in our league anymore at some point, so it's just a matter of, playing nicely.
Yeah.
But usually it's a recommendation.
When we get that recommendation from the league, when they meet, we'll send that to you guys, so you at least know where they stand.
Any other questions or comments on the COVID update? No? Okay, gift request. Anybody? Bueller?
Matt, you're in the VP chair.
Let's see. Well, let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them that need our promotion, so, I would move to, accept the donations, from Richard and Jan Ives to Chisholm Middle School for a saxophone, sousaphone. The amount of $650. Santa Fe PTO, the Santa Fe 5-6 Center. What is this? This is like, where are these words coming from?
That's what you're really good. Angela read heading class.
Good God. Euphoria. That's what it is.
Euphoria.
Donated to the band program for $1,685. Sunset PTO, Sunset Elementary PE equipment, $1,494.07. John Jantz, Newton High School Rail Robotics, for travel expenses and supplies, $3,000. And Mike Ruggiero, Newton High School baseball pitching machine, amount of $3,682.58. And then also thank Steve Johnson for a gift to Newton High School for Homo Erectus School Cast, $450. Community National Bank and Trust, donation to Rail Robotics for $100. Crossroads Financial Advisors, for the donation for travel expenses and supplies to Robotics for $50, and Levi Dosen, Newton High School Robotics, travel expenses and supplies for $150.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? 6-0.
You know, we have never voted down a gift.
No. You're gonna do it next time, aren't you? Okay, approved 2020-21 calendar adjustments.
Just a couple of adjustments to the calendar. The first one's a fairly easy one for negotiations. One of the things we were gonna do is to get 7 hours of family engagement time to have an attendance day removed. And the building leadership teams were scheduling those. We recommend February 12th to be designated as that building attendance day that we would remove from the calendar. The second one is a little bit kind of complicated, kind of, sort of, but not really. The statewide ACT test date is February 23rd, where all juniors and some seniors are allowed to take that assessment for free, for free. It's on the state's dime. Normally, that takes around 10 to 12 staff members to pull off, because you've got about 250 or 300 kids that will be taking that. The suggestion at first was to go remote at the high school there. If we got these 20 hours of time that we can use as one-to-one student contact time for staff development, I'd rather go ahead and make that a professional development day district-wide, because we have some literacy training and other things things that are required for all of our elementary staff and up through high school, but not all high school departments. So it just makes more sense, because then too, those 10 to 12 mainly language arts teachers that are helping to do that ACT or perform that ACT assessment, proctor those assessments, don't have to, if they're remote, they've also got to prepare for the remote courses and proctor that ACT. So I'd like to have pending, working things out with the association in terms of that time, that February 23rd designated, as that day. And then we're working with that small group of people, including some teacher representatives and administrators, if we want to have an additional 2 more days for professional development. And that may be one of those things where we come at you and say, okay, high school doesn't need professional development time because they've got collaboration Wednesdays every week. But elementary level, they don't have those opportunities for those collaboration in the middle. So I'm gonna work with that group of people to come up with those dates if we need them. But if you could give us these 2 adjustments to the calendar, would be great.
So the 2 motions down
Yes.
below?
Yeah, if you would do 2 motions, I would appreciate that.
Okay. I move to approve, any questions or anything, sir? Okay, I move to approve February 12th, 2021 as a non-student attendance day to accommodate, parent engagement time as per the negotiated agreement.
Second.
All those in favor? 6-0.
I move to approve, February 23rd, 2021 as a non-student attendance day to be used for professional development purposes pending approval of the date with the local bargaining unit.
All those in favor? 6-0.
I think it was Luke, right? You second that one?
And you got that one?
Thank you so much. That would be great.
6C, KASB recommended policy revisions and adoptions.
This is first read on these. None of them were crazy. Couple of forms there. One was the compulsory attendance form, which is one of those required things, but all of these were pretty basic in terms of adjustments. So we consider the second read next month. And thanks to Joni for putting that together.
Are there any comments or questions? Will we have information on this tonight?
There was one of those policies that I emailed, President Martin, Fred, about earlier, about the gang intimidation revision and title change, policy. I see, the reason why KASB wants to update that policy stating current language is too broad and it may target certain racial and ethnic groups. And if you read the new proposed policy, I'm just not certain that they accomplished what they set out to do. So I, would like to see that maybe go back in the hands of people that have actually put these policies in place and had to make a decision in the school building, about what a student, what their behavior qualifies as. So if there's any way I could have our principals maybe at Chisholm and the high school look at that a little closer and say, does that look like it accomplishes what KASB is hoping that it does? And if not, I think we might not want to adopt that. I still think that the language is too broad and leaves it very subjective, where there could still be certain groups that are, labeled with it and others. So anyway, I'm not in the building to say what behavior is labeled as this or that. But I know we have really smart people that do handle those kinds of things. I would just ask that they review that a little bit closer before we adopt that at our next meeting.
And you're talking JHCAA there, that
Yes, sir.
specific one. Yeah,
Yep.
I'll send that to them. We can talk about it Thursday at our admin meeting as well.
Excellent.
And our SROs can take a look at it as well.
That would be good. Yeah.
That would include, reviewing the last little note on that one, the district policy, JBBC, bullying or dress code policies, to see if we're kind of already covered in those things, and then maybe you could just get rid of the policy.
Get rid of the policy, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the last.
What
note,
policy would you get rid of?
JHCAA, the one we're just talking about.
So our
Oh, get rid of the gang intimidation policy.
Yeah, it says if it's covered in bullying or dress code, you can get rid of the gang intimidation policy. So maybe also review those other policies and see if we're covered in those.
So I know our dress code policy prohibits anything that is, and I have to think of the exact words, determined to be gang affiliated. I do believe it does not go into any specifics of what that may be, but there is mention of that in the dress code currently.
Your dress codes are usually building specific, whereas your board policy will be a lot more generic to account for any building, individual building differences.
Any other questions or discussion on that item? Okay, Lindley Hall Plaque Committee report.
All right. Well, we've reached out and contacted everybody. We have a meeting set for February the 9th. I've got to meet with almost everybody individually and just a great group. And I know Luke's done some legwork too, to find community resources and people that we can also talk to outside of our group as we go through this process. And so we feel like we've got a really good handle of just a different, diverse, people with diverse backgrounds that can bring us information that either lived through it or around it or that knew people. And we've got some emails with some great history and pictures and other stuff that was already pulled together. So it's gonna be a fun project. I think we'll learn a lot from it, and I'm looking forward to what we can do at the end of this thing. So, looking for the meeting on February the 9th at 7 o'clock. It's our first meeting, so we're really excited about it. Your meeting, Luke?
No, not right now. I mean, like Amy said, I've had some conversations with some folks around town, and we're just starting to really collect a lot of good information, and I think we'll move forward with something good here, so hopefully we'll have a recommendation before too long, get something accomplished.
Thank you guys for your work on that.
Thank you, guys.
Guys, question? Who all has been appointed to the committee?
Can I send, I go with Coma, I can't send you the email, can I, to list names? Can I send that to her? Is that, not compliant?
You should be able to send it to them.
You can send it to me and then I can share it with all.
Okay, I'll do that, I'll forward it back to you, so you have the list of everybody who nominated everybody that's on that list.
Do you know, though, like, now or no?
Well, there's 7 people, and I know like 3 of them,
Okay.
but I'd rather just get you the list.
Okay, also, the Harvey County Historical Society, are you guys, I provided that information
Yep.
to Joni to provide you, are you using them as a resource?
We
I
will.
went and had a conversation with Chris and Kat myself, and I got some documents from them that
Okay.
would be helpful, yeah.
Okay.
And they kind of gave me some ideas of how they would approach it.
Yeah, that was kind of my goal with that suggestion is they're professionals, they're historical professionals, and they put up historical markers all over the county. And I think they, it helps definitely guide us, to do this the right way. Cause I don't wanna have to revisit this in a number of years. Whatever's on it is really important. And I think that, we need the professionals to kind of guide us along that route.
Yep, I agree with you, it's very important, so I think we've got that conversation, we've had that, and others, of other resources we have, so we feel like we've got a good rounded, group of people that we can work forward with and get information from as we need it, so.
Are you guys planning to do any kind of like public forum type things or?
I'm not sure yet, we'll meet on the 9th, and we'll all talk, so we haven't talked about that yet, I'm not sure what that would accomplish right now. I know we do have a lot of individual meetings, a lot of data to bring together, and then hear everybody out and understand where everybody's coming from, and then start formulating this thing. So we're real broad strokes right now, we're not down to that detail yet.
Yeah, just because people have been asking me, like, how do I get involved, and I'm like, all I know is that there's a 7-person committee, so I kind of assume that there will be a chance for whoever to voice their opinion.
Yeah,
Just trying to get those details for when people ask.
I mean, if anybody has any strong feelings, I think they can reach out. I mean, they can tell me what their ideas are,
Okay.
and we have a 7-person committee, but I don't think that's the only place that any ideas are gonna come from. We're gonna be listening to other folks that, are valuable resources and know the history. So, I mean, even when I went to the Historical Society, they talked to me about multiple other people that actually have, potentially more of the history and documents than they even have there at the museum that talks about that.
and we'll be asking publicly here real soon for if other people have certain pieces of information that we've been meeting with other historians too, that are around this genre, that have given us a bunch of great information. So we'll be eventually sharing that, asking for some, out of requests from some of the people that we've talked to, that, they've just been a great help, and I think they're gonna do a lot for us in gathering everything we need. So,
Do you have an ETA for when you think you'd be able to propose something?
well, something like this, my instincts tell me we'll know a lot more on February 9th when we meet, and we have everybody together, and we get to talk, and then figure out how much we have to do, start
outlining what we think this looks like, and I don't wanna rush a project like this, because it is so important, so I wanna make sure we do it right, and that may take more time than I initially thought. So I don't really have any together in the first meeting.
Yeah, because I remember when we first talked about this, we were talking about January, and I know it's probably been difficult to meet right now, so I didn't
Well,
expect,
yeah, and some of my appointees or people that were appointed to the board, they don't even have email addresses.
yeah.
So,
Mine.
well, there's several,
Yeah.
it's not just yours, so I got like 3 or 4 of them, so it's
Yeah.
like, I'm literally having to call on the phone, and it's like, I can't text them.
Yeah.
But it's all good, that's great, because that means we have such a wide variety of individuals to communicate with.
Yeah.
And social media is not gonna get everybody involved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that would be my natural play, but I realize that that's not what this is gonna be, so it might take time, and that's okay too. I just wanna make sure we do it right.
Yeah, definitely.
So much to learn right now, and I've been learning a lot, meeting with a lot of great people, that are just sharing some great information, so.
I think a lot of people are kind of anxious to see, the final product of this, but you guys, like you said, you haven't even had your first meeting. So I want you to sit down with your group, get your feet under you to see how that goes, and that will tell you a lot. I can tell you guys are invested in this and taking in a lot of information, and it will take a while, but I know you're not pushing it off and putting it on the back burner on purpose. So I think you guys are gonna find that good balance of taking your time and doing it well and doing it right. So I appreciate that. Building reports are on your agenda. Board comments.
No, I'm not used to going first. I don't have anything.
Andy?
Yeah, man, I tell you what, the last several months have been very interesting, and I've learned a lot. I continue to learn a lot. I'm really excited about this team. I'm excited about this project, learning some of the people I've been able to meet that you guys have brought into my life, and some of them are just, I was all emotional talking to one of them and all the information, and they're just like a walking piece of history, right? And so to have that experience was cool. And then to hear stuff like what's going on at the high school during these times, and the innovation that's still moving forward, and people creating hope in times when we really need that, it just really jazzes me up that we have the opportunity to do that here. And Fred, your team, and Shelley, your team, they're doing amazing things, Shima. And as I see what's happening here, and I see the potential, and moving through without having excuses, right? Because our community at the end of the day doesn't care about that, they want us to get the results, right? And I know this team gets that, so I'm really excited to continue to move forward together. And my energy after today is it's sky high, so thank you guys for everything you're doing behind the scenes.
I just want to say thank you to NHS Culinary Arts for getting us dinner tonight. That was really good. I enjoyed it. And everybody that's had kind words and recognized all the board members for School Board Recognition Month. So I really appreciate all the thanks. And it's an honor to be up here and be a part of this. So, and then also going back to the Lindley Hall project. Seriously, to the public, reach out to me, please, if there's anything that you feel really strongly about. I am all ears. This is not, a closed door project. I mean, I think we're listening to a lot of folks and taking in information. So, please reach out to me if you have a lot of background, the history there. You've got documents, pictures, anything related to it. Please share your thoughts with us.
Yes, piggyback on what Luke said, thank you to the culinary arts class for a fantastic dinner tonight. It was incredibly tasty, even more so when I don't have to cook it, so thank you, that was fantastic. A shout out to the custodial staff at the high school that worked during TOC. I had a chance to be there for the weekend working as well, and the custodial staff not only did a great job with cleaning everything and disinfecting and making sure things were set up well, they were incredibly helpful and friendly and kind every time I spoke with them, and I just appreciate that so much. And then one other little thing, I made myself notes, just a thank you to all staff for working so hard. It feels so good right now to have that first semester under our belts. It felt like we'd never get here some days. And I just want to say that I appreciate all of the little things that our staff is doing. I get to hear it from my own kids' teachers throughout the days and meetings, and then I see it on social media. So when teachers are doing just extra little check-ins with kids and encouraging them and celebrating successes, and and then having fun with the kids. It's just so nice to hear laughter between teachers and students, and these little things staff are doing are the biggest things, and I just appreciate that, and that's not going